Hello, party people. My name is Krista Keogh, and you're listening to Granted, the podcast that puts the fun in funding. Today we're in the studio with Stephanie Purcell, who's a force of nature in the arts and entertainment industry. Stephanie is the founder of Vox Management Agency in Halifax, where she works as a booking agent with some of Canada's best and brightest talent, including comedians, musicians, and speakers. She's described by those who know her as the first in line and the last to leave, and we're going to find out how she does it in today's episode. Here we go. Thank you for being here with us today, Steph.
Oh, thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too. This is such a treat because I get to talk to you all the time. But I'm just so glad that we get to have this chat today so people get to know you more and what you do.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
So you are someone who likes to be social. You are very busy. Your schedule's packed. You're always going out and you're going to shows. And you also have a home in Halifax. And you have get-togethers and people are always coming and going. So you and I have known each other. We've been friends for about 5 or 6 years. But I've always wondered, is this the way you have always been?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, my household growing up in Newfoundland was pretty busy. Like, my parents always had dinner parties and always had friends over. And we grew up with a pool. So, like, friends were always welcome to come over and hang out.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was just one of those things that, like, I always had a busy household. And, like, even in my house here, it's like, oh, I love the drop-in. You know, like, I tell people that. It's like, come in, drop in, you know? It's, it's always been something that I've done.
And it's kind of part of that Newfoundland culture you mentioned. So we were both born in Newfoundland, but you were born and raised in Deer Lake. So, like, what was happening in Deer Lake all the time that made you so, like, on the go?
Well, it's a very small town, so we didn't, town of 5,000 people. So we really didn't have a whole lot going on. Like, to be honest, like, when people always say, oh, did you always go to live music growing up? Like, we really didn't that much because there really wasn't that much to go see. We had, like, dances on the weekends, like at the Lions Hall. But
amazing.
Yeah, and we were in high school, we would actually throw the dances and we would DJ the dances.
Oh, my gosh.
So I guess I've been, like, promoting events for a long, long time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what we would do because it was, and people love when we would throw the dances because for some reason they were always just that little bit more fun because, you know, there's like 4 teenage girls in grade 12 throwing dances. So that was something that we always did. And then, you know, once I was old enough and we could go to bars, there was a couple bands that we used to go see in Newfoundland. There was very, very few, like, that were kind of really around. You know, it's in the 90s. There just really wasn't that much there. But when I went to St. Vex, that I started going to shows all the time because the Student Union building at St. Vex always had concerts and shows, and the bars had shows, and that was just what I did when I was in university, like, all the time.
That's awesome. So, so you went to St. Vex. And you have a Bachelor of Arts in History and Fine Arts, which is pretty different from what you do today.
Yeah.
So what were you thinking when you enrolled in university? What did you want to do?
I wanted to get an X-ring. So my dad went to St. Vex and grew up in Antigonish. And, like, since I was a child, it was like, you're going to St. Vex. And it wasn't like I told, like, my parents telling me, but it was, you know, my dad's family lived there. And it was just always one of those things that just always what I was going to do. I was getting an X-ring. I was going to get a degree from St. Vex. Like, that was it. Like, you graduate from high school, that September, you're going to St. Vex. And I went, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to do an arts degree because I just wanted a degree. And, you know, my first year I took history, I took English, I took psych, I took, like, the pretty, like, basic courses, and I did not enjoy it. It was just not my jam. So the next year when I went back, I found the art department. And I was like, oh, you can take art classes and get a degree? And I was always kind of a creative person. So I basically took every art class that they had. And then all, like, my history classes and stuff, I would take women's history and history of architecture and, you know, history of art and stuff like that. So my goal ultimately was just to get the degree and get it done. Yeah. And it's so funny because when I reflect on it now, I had so many friends who were in business, and I really was quite interested in all the things that they were doing, but I was just sort of like, I didn't really think about doing business at the time, and I was on a path, and I was enjoying what I was doing, and I was having fun, and so I just kept going with that.
That's so funny. Oh, wow. That's interesting. But then you went to NSCC?
Yeah. I was just going to say, though, what's really funny is that my mentor, who's Tom Kemp at the Feldman Agency, he has a degree in history.
Right.
So we always just laugh about that because it's just like, what are the chances that the two of us would have history degrees and we're both agents? Like, you know. Yeah.
So then what led you to make the decision to go to NSCC? Because you did the advanced PR program there.
Yeah. So I moved to Halifax after I graduated, and I worked at the Delta, and I worked retail at Aerobics First on Quimpool, and I loved the work that I was doing, but my dad was like, okay. He's just like, you need to get on a path. My dad was a principal, but before that he was a guidance counselor, so he was like really big into like education and helping people find their careers and that sort of thing. So he found the NSCC, the PR program, and I applied and got in. And at the time, it was a very competitive program, like 500 people apply and like 30 get in. So when I found that out, I was like, okay, I guess like this is probably meant to be, to be. So I did that program and I really enjoyed it and I did really well. But my favorite part of the whole program was events. So I just always steered towards doing the events.
Right.
Like I organized our graduation party. I did like all those sorts of things, and really focused in like when there was like volunteer opportunities or guest speakers, like anyone from like the events world those were the people that I stayed in touch with.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I love that. When you graduated from NSCC, is when you started working at Limelight Group. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you worked as you were booking talent there, and you were with them for 13 years, and then you moved up to the role of vice president. And then in October 2016, you started your own business, Vox Management Agency. And I know that was a really big decision for you to leave a position, where you're very senior, you're doing a lot of work. Tell us about that time when you first thought, okay, I'm going to start my own booking management company. Like, how did you plan to set up your business for success?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think just backing up to when I started at Limelight, I started there on a 6-month contract, and it was a very small company. Like there was the owner, and then she hired me. And, I did everything. I did marketing. I did customer service. I updated the website. I did accounting. I did like all the admin things. Like I just did all those little pieces took. Yeah. To
and a small business often offers you that opportunity, right?
Yeah. You get to get your hands in a lot of things. So I learned a lot. And then as the years went on, we had people who kind of took over all those sort of things. They were the admin person. They were the accounting person. They kind of handled some of like the client services stuff. And then I moved really into a full-time sales role. Like that was my main function in the business. And, I networked a lot, and obviously I was there a really long time. And so I had a lot of freedom, and, I got to do a lot of the things I wanted to do. And I got to work on like a lot of really cool things.
Yeah.
So I didn't really see an end for a long time. And then, I think it was owning a business was always something I wanted to do. Like once I kind of got into that part of my career. Because like my grandfather was he was like the beer wholesaler in Newfoundland, and he had a few businesses, and I was always like kind of interested in it, but just kind of that didn't kind of come. The real interest didn't come till like a little bit later in life, once I kind of got entrenched into a business and an industry that I was really into, And I would say, when I made the move, it was a pretty quick decision. It was like not something I had spent a long time planning to do. When you kind of have two leaders in a company, eventually you kind of, if you end up, you can only really focus on one vision in a company. And we kind of ended up having two different visions because we both had, we were just interested in different things. And it really kind of once I kind of realized that, I was like, oh, okay, I think I'm gonna maybe need to switch gears. And I pretty much pressed stop and pressed play on a new business. Like, we talked and we parted ways. Like, it was all good. And she was like, I totally get it. Like, that's what you want to do. And she wants to pursue her passions. And it was great. But I just kind of like a month later, like registered a business and.
Okay. Yeah. So what you thought of the name, you had to get someone to do the branding,
logo,
right? And your website. And then did you do a business plan? Did you,
Well, I mean, really what I wanted to do, I wanted people knew that I had left Limelight. And so I wanted people to know, like, okay, well, people were sort of like, well, what's she doing now? So honestly, all I did was I got a very, very basic website. Super basic, just basically had my logo and contact information on it. And I had a logo made and I just put it out there. And then friends of mine had started an entrepreneur group. They were doing this like program for a year. And basically every month you got together with other like, young entrepreneurs who were starting their businesses and they kind of hit every kind of business topic every month. And, it was really awesome. We really kind of came together as a really good group. And some of the people I'm still doing work with from that initial group. Actually, Laura Simpson from Side Door was in that entrepreneur group as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So, that really kind of gave me kind of like a little bit of a path of how to get organized with what I needed for my business. And then I hustled it up and got a real website and got a bunch of marketing pieces together and launched it a year later. The following October. We launched, it was really funny, we launched it kind of going like a soft launch and put it out there. It was like just as we were going in a pop explosion. And I just remember going into the Seahorse and going to places and everyone was like, oh my God, congratulations, blah, blah, blah. It was just so much. People were so happy for me that it was like, had all kind of come together. And I really wasn't expecting as much like response as I got, which was awesome. It made me feel really good and empowered to really like super dive into like what we were doing.
Yeah. It's great when you feel that. I totally agree. So when it comes to funding, so how did you manage this part? Because as a booking agent, that's primarily what you do with your company and you manage the Melatones as well. But as a booking agent, you are not eligible to apply for as many funding programs as other music businesses, like a record label, like an artist manager. So have you applied for funding at all to help support your business? And can you tell us what those programs are and your experiences with that?
Yeah. So I did do the SEED program, a funding program through SEED, Center of Education, Entrepreneurship, and Development. And that's where I wrote my business plan, which was great. But that was really, it's a loan, really, was the first thing I did because I needed some cash flow to like get me going.
Okay. Through SEED.
Through SEED.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a lot of different programs actually for entrepreneurs. This one just felt like the best fit for me because I managed the Melatones. They're a really busy band. I knew they were going to come with me when I left. So I knew I'd make money right out the gate. So it wasn't one of those things where, oh, you want to go on EI and do this and do that. I was like, no, I'm just going to go for it and just, I know how to do this. I'll book something, and the Melatones was one thing I knew I could bank on. And then I knew I could get my hands on other things that I could book. And so that's when I kind of got some cash flow basically through SEED, which really was really helpful. And then once it kind of came into more of the marketing part, that's when I had applied for Music Nova Scotia, the business development program.
Awesome. Okay.
So we've been funded 3 times on that program. So the 3 years I've been in business, I've applied 3 times. The first year was a big funding application because I wanted to get the website up. I wanted to get I wanted to get a video shot of us. I wanted to get professional photos done. So those sorts of things that kind of put us out there on a level that, buyers from not just people who know me, but people could find us if they're in Toronto and they kind of start Googling for whatever, and they'd find us. So that was a really, really helpful program. It's a 50-50 program. So you have to put in 50% of your own money and they'll pay the other 50% towards the costs.
Would you say, was that in the first year, or the second year?
Well, I started the business October 2016,
Yep.
and the application was a January 15th deadline.
January or December 15th or March 15th. It would have been two. So around the time. So that within the first year, though.
Yeah.
So then you were able to do all those things. And then, like you mentioned, when you did a bigger launch of your business the following year in October, you had all those things ready.
Exactly. Those were all the
Nice.
pieces
Okay.
I needed to get ready for October 2017 was when we launched. That's when we had everything ready. The video, the website, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. So it was like a campaign you unrolled.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, 100%. And that was really great because it was able to give me access to a little bit more money so I could do things a little more pro. And to be honest, I probably would not have done some of the things that we did had we not had the funding. Like I would not have probably not been able to produce we did an About Vox video. So I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. I probably would have just did the website and that would have been it.
And maybe waited a year and been like, okay, we'll do a
Exactly.
video in 6 months. or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. So that was nice because I really wanted to be able to deliver something like super pro and interesting. And, you only got one time to make a good first impression type thing. So I wanted people to be able to see that and be like, oh yeah, she's doing good. This is good.
Yeah.
And then we just launched in that October of 17. And then we applied again for the program, but really like a smaller request. We made a lot more kind of like promo, like we did. We had shirts made for like all the tech crew, that lots of friends of ours in the tech industry, because like they're wearing t-shirts, black t-shirts from all the way across the country, all across the world, really. So we had like a Vox, like Good People Crew t-shirt made specifically for them.
That's
We had
awesome.
pins made, all that kind of stuff. So, and that was like received really, really well. And then we just did a third round where we wanted to jump in and do another big project. So we're doing a big marketing campaign. We're going to do an upcoming video shoot as well with Mirror Image Media, with the girls from Mirror Image. Love them. So we're going to kind of do like a follow-up series to the video that we did. We're going to do like a 6 episode kind of rollout of things about the work that we do and the people that we work with and that sort of thing. So I'm actually really excited to see that all
That
come
is
together.
exciting. I want to mention that too, because so people, I think some people don't understand what a booking agent does.
Right.
Can you tell us, just so it's like really clear?
Well, a booking agent, they book talent for events. So whether the event is, bar venues, whether it is corporate events where we kind of focus a lot more of our energies, festivals, that sort of thing. And you basically take a commission of the artist's fee.
Right. And so when you talk about doing sales, you are talking about selling the talent, booking the talent.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. You work with not only musicians, like artists, like we talk a lot about here on the podcast, but also with speakers and comedians. And this is something we have talked about, and I'm interested to talk about it today because speakers and comedians almost always do not fit into arts funding programs. They don't. So to our knowledge, there's no tour support or marketing support if a comedian or speaker wanted to do a website, to help develop their business. So what are your thoughts on this from an arts and a business perspective? Like, should we be considering them to be artists and what they do is art? Should we be investing in that kind of talent here because it's also just as great as a band? What do you think?
Yeah. So, on the booking side, if you're booking a band or you're booking a comedian, you're booking a speaker, it's all very similar. They all have like tech needs. They all need to travel places. It's essentially the same formula, but learning a lot of like just different language of what applies to music versus speaking and, just the style and what the industry is doing in that sector. It's wonderful that music is so funded in Canada, like let alone here. We have Music Nova Scotia, but like just also on a federal level. And they do not have that at all. Like in the comedy world, it's really interesting because they don't have like a Music Nova Scotia. They don't have like a real like association type thing as for comedians. A lot of them, they're just like all winging it, all out on their own. And, you know, they look to, I think, a lot more of like the senior comics that have been doing it for a long time for guidance and like, what did you do? And, you know, those sorts of things. And it's a really amazing community, the comedy community. I would love to be booking more comedy. I think it's such a great entertainment piece for an event, especially in our area where we focus on corporate and special events. There's a lot of comedians are artists, like 100%. And a lot of them are also actors, and they host events and do different things as well. But they don't have that same kind of association type of thing that other industries like a music industry has.
Right. Okay. Or even like there's lots of them for arts. There's like a crafters association, there's theaters associations and things. Okay. So without that, you're right. There's no one organizations where they go to. There's maybe places where the comedians are successful, like CBC. I'm thinking.
For sure.
But
and
they're
not.
They
have there's ACTRA, and there's like the Canadian Comedy Awards that they obviously like acknowledge comedians and their achievements. And there's the festival circuit where they go to all different festivals, but it's not the same thing. It's a place where people can network and learn from each other and those sorts of things, but it's not at all the level of what other artists get and in other industries and stuff like that. And it's just like I said, it's a really great community. So I'd love to see them because a lot of them have some really great ideas. But it's on one hand, it's obviously cheaper for a comedian to put out an album than an artist because it's one person, a microphone. Obviously you have to have a recording engineer and you've got to market it and all that kind of stuff. So it's very different. Like the costs are obviously lower than it would be when you've got a 5-piece band that's putting together a record and writing the songs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, those like just basic costs.
But then they do live shows too.
Oh, totally.
And that would take that's a whole event in itself to record a live show.
Yeah, for sure. And they also do videos and those sorts of things as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I would think that for speakers, there's even less of a circuit of support or a system.
Well, there is an association for speakers, like the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, that some people belong to, but it's not one that everyone does. I find speaking is definitely much more of a solo project. Like, there's some of them are definitely networking with one another, but they're all kind of building their businesses, I find, pretty solo, or they're working with agents and managers like us. Like, we've helped build Tarek Hadad's career from Peace by Chocolate.
Yeah.
He's kind of learned all of his, other than actually doing the speaking, he's learned all of the industry stuff from us,
Tell us about him a little bit, just so we get a sense of like, who he is and the type of client that you work with for speaking.
Tarek, he's a Syrian newcomer to Canada. He was a refugee. His family came here to Canada in 2016 after they fled Syria because of the war. And the family restarted their chocolate business in Antigonish. And they've become this like global phenomena. Like it's pretty cool. Like the Prime Minister was like a fan.
I actually saw that video. It was nuts. The Prime Minister gave Peace by Chocolate as part of a gift, right?
To the U.S. Yeah. So, the story, you can't write this stuff. Like it's so amazing. And it's also, it's a business story, which, obviously a lot of people are interested in business and entrepreneurship, but really Tarek's message is really all about peace. And it's all about, giving immigrants a chance. So he was getting so many requests to speak that it was like becoming overwhelming. And actually one of the guys from the entrepreneur group that I'd started with, he had been working with Tarek on all of the marketing, and he's like, he really needs someone to handle his speaking. And we started working together, and it's going awesome. Like, I just love the work that we're doing together. He's so wonderful. But there's not any funding out there to like, we want to go make a bunch of videos or something to put out. He's got to pay for that all himself. Like, that's really how it works. The same as in the comedy world. You're really paying for all of these things yourself. There's really not funding. Although it's come up a number of times that it's kind of been tabled, that I've talked to, like, you know, communities, culture, and heritage. Like, are you going to change that? You know, or is there going to be opportunities for...
What if
there's
they
comedians
told you?
that are moving back to the Maritimes, who have lived in LA and they've lived in Toronto, and they're moving back to Nova Scotia, they're moving to New Brunswick and PEI because, you know, they're raising families and they want to come home. And you can obviously work from here and travel. But it would be really nice opportunity for them to get some access to funding, because they can kind of pull together a little bit more material and hopefully end up making more money. That's inevitably what you want to do with funding. You want to turn that $5,000 into $50,000 sort of thing, you know?
Get your return on it. And also, I mean, from the arts side of it too, like recognizing, I think that comedy has a place within the arts, and that it's important to support, and that it has a lot of the same benefits that going to a live show does, or like going to see an inspiring, incredible speaker. So what you've heard in your kind of looking into this kind of thing is just that it's not yet happening. It would be great if it could happen. Maybe somebody can start like a comedy association. I'm just going to throw that out there. Maybe somebody will do it. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then, you know, lobby the government, ask them for some money, annually put together some programs, and start putting some more comedians on the road. Because they could use some of the same funding, like tour and marketing.
Oh,
really
totally.
comes to mind. It would be really exciting. Yeah. Okay, this is a fun topic that we've also talked about too before, and I think we should just kind of put it out there for people as well to talk about and think about. So across the board in the East Coast, we have seen over the years on stage so much Plaid.
So much Plaid.
So much Plaid. And we love Plaid. There's a time and a place for Plaid. But, you know, why? Why does it matter what people wear on stage? It's a funny question to ask, but you are someone I know who has a lot of thoughts on this, because you help your clients. For good reason. You help your clients do their best on stage, whether they're comedians, speakers, artists. And you're able to give that critical advice, I think. So let's give it all to everyone.
Okay. First of all, I love Plaid. I own so much Plaid.
Yes, me too.
But I think it really comes a lot down to an artist's image and what you're trying to portray on stage. And I get it. Some people there's different types of bands. Plaid works for sure. T-shirts work. Black T-shirts, black jeans, whatever. But a lot of times you're selling talent. You're selling like the same thing as we're selling talent to people. They're selling themselves from like, book me. I want to play in England. I want to play in, the US. I want to play wherever. And I think it just kind of has a lot, like your look does have part of that. People want to buy like a packaged person. They've got to be able to sell it too. They've got to sell 200 tickets, 500 tickets, whatever. And I do think that, you're portraying a certain type of image on stage, and it really should your attire, I guess, should kind of match what you're like all going for, if you will. And yeah, I mean, it kills me to see people show up at a sound check and then they perform that night and they're in like the same outfit. Like there's a couple of sound guys that were always laughing. We're like, oh my God, come on, buddy, at least change the T-shirt. Right. It's like you're entertaining people. So it's just one of those things. It's kind of, I love when you see musicians walking around the room before the show and you have no idea, like you would have no idea they were on stage, and then they get up on stage and they've changed. It's like, oh my God, it's like their musical persona like just comes out, Right.
It's like an elevated version. Because I think the visual is a huge part of it. And the music is the most important. Like we can agree that the talent is the most important thing on stage.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. But I think some artists are missing out on the opportunity to really enhance their show and like hit it home and make that visual part of their show even better, because you're right, not thinking what they're wearing matters. Oh, right. I'll just wear the shirt that I just wear every day. But actually, Christina Martin is someone who's on the show.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what a perfect example. girl shows up every time. She's like, oh, should I wear this or this? She's got like 3 jackets. She's got 4 shirts. It's like she buys clothes when she goes to Europe. She's like, oh, it's my new stage jacket. It's like fringe. Looks like a fancy, gorgeous, like exotic crow or something. I don't know. She's like, but she's one of those people that when she's on stage, it's like she's entertaining people. She looks great. She looks super cool. She's styling. Also, she's got a great voice. She's, singing great songs, rocking out on the guitar. But that's like, she's just one of those people that just like, she's the full package. And I just feel that like clothes also is a big part of that,
So you talk about the package. I think that's a good point because from someone like yourself, who's a booking agent and you're selling an act, selling talent to someone, you want to be able to confidently know that the artist or that talent is going to look great and sound great and just overall be great. Like you're going to deliver something outstanding. Like every piece is taken care of. So when you are looking, when you're out at shows and you're watching comedians at events and things, in the back of your mind, if you're thinking like, oh, this person's so talented, could they be a potential client of mine? Could I sell them? What is it that you're looking for? Does it matter that they have tons of social media followers? Do they need to have a website with a great video of their act? Like, what do you look for in a potential new client?
Well, for one thing, I will just say video is so important. And because we work with a lot of people, especially on the East Coast. We work all across Canada, but we work with a lot of different people especially from Nova Scotia and the Maritimes, really. So it could be, especially if you're booking could be anything from like background music or they want like a solo guitar player. And there's a lot of different options, that we can choose from. But video is so helpful. It's so easy to sell people. It's like, well, this is what they sound like. This is what they look like. This is the style of music that they're playing. And they're like, great, I'll take that one. Like video just really, really helps people in the buying decision. So I just always encourage, because there's some people who I really have tried to push and certain clients who trust me and have worked with me a lot. Like, yes, I'll buy that. Yep, that person looks perfect. Yep, that person sounds perfect. Yes, just go with whatever you're suggesting. But if they don't know me very well and they don't know any of the acts, they're really kind of buying on what comes through in the proposal. So if I don't have any good video, if they don't have a good headshot, if they don't have a website, it just, no matter how talented they are, it's really hard for someone who doesn't know, and people are buying, they've got to entertain a lot of people and they've got to have the, approval of their bosses and stuff. And they want to make sure everything is great. So video, I just think is just one of those important things. For us, the people that when we're looking at people to work with, a lot of the people on our roster are good friends. Like that's kind of the reality. There are people that I would welcome into my home. There are people who they're just like our people. And it's for me, it's like you've got to have a really good relationship with someone to be part of our roster, if you will. Because you want to be able to trust these people. You want them to be very talented. And then there's some people who I've worked with that I've worked with them a long time, and we just work with them to help groom them and help them just kind of guide them through everything. All the pieces, whether they're putting together new materials or what they're putting out there on the stage, whether they're a speaker or a musician or whatnot. But I think when it comes down to the media presence, it honestly, it helps. Tarek, for an example, his phone was ringing off the hook, his inbox was full. Obviously that's very appealing, Prime Minister Trudeau was talking about him at a UN event. It's obviously that's a great choice.
That's huge.
But those are so rare. And if anyone does have that many followers, they're probably already working with someone, But sometimes people just kind of emerge out. They write some hit songs or, they're doing something really great that's received a lot of media attention. Then they just need help and support.
Because you can book anyone at
Vox, that's our whole thing at Vox. We can book anyone.
So you have your roster.
Yes.
And then you also see other talent. And then your clients come to you who are doing events and things. They say, hey, we're really looking for ABC. And even if ABC isn't on your roster, you know where they are, and we'll reach out to them and make that deal.
Exactly. Because it's talent buying, basically, is what we're doing. And, we call Feldman, we call APA, we call, Sonic and Jones and Co. And we want to work with people that we really like as well, whenever the chance is. Like, sure, some people call for people specifically, but other times they're like, we just want like a headliner. We're not really sure who it makes sense. And then like we reach out to people like Tom, and I'll be like, all right, who's available this date? This is my price range. So let me present some ideas. And Tom's always happy when we call. It's like, great. Yeah. You go sell some of my people, you know? So that's it. That's the thing is like, we can book anyone, which is, which I love doing because then you get to work with so many different people and get to work with, on so many different types of events. Yeah. Like I've worked with probably almost every single like popular East Coast artist. Like we've worked with so many people. It's been so much fun.
That's so good. Yeah. Well, it's a testament to our people because you only work with good people.
Exactly.
So there you
go.
Booked. I want to thank you for coming in here today. This like flew by.
Oh my God, I can't believe this is done.
I know. We got it in, girl. We got it in. Thank you for sharing all this stuff. I'm so happy for you and where you're at, and I can't wait to see all the stuff that's coming up. And we appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, we're really excited too. And thanks so much for having me.
Yay. Yay. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you like to listen to podcasts so you never miss a new episode of Granted. Produced by Chris Takio and John Mullane at John's Studio in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Follow us on social media. We are at Granted Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and you can follow us on Twitter at Granted_podcast.